Why don't humans farm predators? Here's something that shouldn't make sense. There are commercial crocodile farms in Zimbabwe, Thailand, South Africa, and Australia. Thousands of animals, profitable operations, leather and meat sold at scale. There has never been a single commercial lion farm in history. Both are predators. Both will kill you without hesitation. So why does one work and the other doesn't? The answer most people reach for is danger. That's not really the answer. We work with bulls. We work with stallions. We've figured out dangerous animals before. The real answer is a set of invisible filters. And almost every predator on Earth fails most of them. The ones that somehow pass tell you something that reframes the entire question. We've farmed cattle for roughly 10,000 years. Pigs, chickens, sheep, goats, fish, even insects. If an animal produces protein and can be raised in a pen without bankrupting you, someone somewhere has figured out how to do it. But almost every farming culture in history drew a line at the same place. Predators. That wasn't ignorance. That wasn't fear. The same calculation got run across thousands of years and dozens of civilization, and it kept returning the same answer. Here's why. Every step up the food chain loses roughly 90% of its energy. A cow eats grass, essentially free, and converts some of it into body mass. A predator that eats that cow loses most of the energy stored in the cow. Stack another level, and you're working with almost nothing. A lion needs around 10 pounds of meat per day. To sustain even a small breeding operation, you need a continuous supply of prey, which means you're not farming one animal. You're farming an entire food chain and collecting the least efficient output at the very end of it. You could just farm the prey and skip the last step. So you do. Danger is a problem you can engineer around. The energy math is a structural wall. But even if the wall didn't exist, you'd hit the next problem almost immediately. Starting in the late 1950s, Soviet scientists ran an experiment in Siberia. They took wild foxes and selectively bred them for one specific trait: reduced fear and aggression toward humans. Intentional. Scientific. A single clear goal. It took over 40 generations to produce foxes that behaved noticeably differently. 40 generations of foxes. That's what domestication actually costs. And that was foxes. Small animals already kept in captivity for fur farming, already partially habituated to humans. With all of that working in their favor, closing the gap still took decades of deliberate pressure. Here's the distinction that matters. Taming is one individual animal that tolerates you. Domestication is an entire species reshaped over generations to cooperate reliably with large-scale management. Those are completely different things. Prey animals drifted toward domestication almost by accident. Cattle form hierarchies humans can slot into. Sheep follow group behavior. Chickens will breed under almost any conditions. Their survival strategies happen to line up with what farming needs. Predators evolved in exactly the opposite direction. Territorial, reactive, built to fight and contest. The traits that make a jaguar effective in the wild make scaling it under human management a structural nightmare, and you cannot breed that out in any practical time frame. The fox experiment proved it, even under intentional scientific pressure, which is what makes the exception so precise. Mink are farmed commercially across multiple countries, foxes too. Both predators, both raised at scale for over a century. They work because they happen to clear the checklist. Small enough that total food input stays manageable, feedable on processed inputs instead of live prey, reliable breeders in captivity, and already altered by generations of selective pressure. But the most instructive case is the crocodile. And the reason it works has nothing to do with the checklist. Crocodiles are cold-blooded. They don't burn energy maintaining body temperature. They don't need to eat continuously just to stay functional. A crocodile can go weeks without food and still convert what it does eat more efficiently than any warm-blooded predator of comparable size. The energy wall, the one that makes lion farming structurally impossible, simply doesn't apply to an animal that barely uses energy when it isn't hunting. That's not a loophole, that's the rule expressed exactly. The rule was never predators can't be farmed. The rule is an animal has to clear every relevant bar at the same time. Energy efficiency, behavioral manageability, captive breeding reliability, feed logistics. Most predators fail several of those simultaneously. The ones that got through were the ones where, for different reasons, enough conditions happened to align. The ancient Egyptians kept cheetahs. The Romans filled arenas with lions and bears. Medieval falconers trained hawks with genuine sophistication. None of it became agriculture, not because those civilizations lacked the intelligence, but because none of it was meant to. These were displays of wealth, symbols of power. The animal was proof of status, not a source of it. They required enormous resources and produced nothing scalable. Here's the thing that reframes all of it. The predator line in farming isn't really about predators. It's about what farming actually is. Farming is compressing energy, sunlight into grain into protein, and extracting it efficiently enough to justify the cost at every step. When a step multiplies losses instead of limiting them, the system collapses. Predators sit at the end of a long chain of compounding inefficiency, wrapped in behavioral traits built for individual survival, not collective management. The crocodile slipped through because its metabolism accidentally solved the energy problem. The mink and fox slipped through because their size and behavior landed close enough to the threshold that selective breeding could close the remaining gap. The reason there are no lion farms isn't that lions are special. It's that lions are what you get when an animal sits at the end of a long chain of losses, shaped by millions of years of evolution in exactly the wrong direction for this purpose. Most predators are that animal. The ones we farm are the rare exceptions where, just this once, the numbers actually worked out.